So here's an example question testing some of the things we've just learned. So it says a car covered a distance of 30 kilometers in 30 minutes. So this is the distance, which I'm going to call D, and this is the time taken, which I'm going to call T. You know it's time because it's minutes. You know this is a distance because of the units of kilometers. Moving on, it says how many kilometers will it cover in 45 minutes? And it says assume the car is moving at the same average speed. So we want to know how many kilometers a car will cover in 45 minutes. So we want to know the distance it travels. And you know from what we just learned that speed is distance over time, and distance is speed times time, where s is speed. So we want to know the distance. We don't know the speed, but we want to know the distance if the car travels 45 minutes. We know the time. The time is 45 minutes. So what I'll do is write the following. The time is 45 minutes. The speed we do not know. So because in general you always want your time in hours unless the question tells you otherwise, we're going to convert this 45 minutes to hours. So I'll just put T again, so I just wrote the same thing twice. So how do you do that? Well, you know that 1 hour is 60 minutes. Or I'll say 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. So how many hours is 45 minutes? Well, first of all, let's find out what 1 minute is in hours. So I'm going to divide both sides by 60. So I'm going to divide you by 60, divide you by 60. So it means that 1 minute is equal to 1 over 60 hours. So what about 45 minutes? Well, to find 45 minutes in hours, I'll multiply both sides by 45. So multiply this side by 45 and this side by the same thing, 45. So that gives me 45 times 1, which is 45 minutes, is equal to, what's 45 times 1 over 60? 45 times 1 over 60, because it's the same thing as 1 over 60 times 45. So you just focus on the numbers first. 1 over 60 times 45 is the same thing as 45 times 1 over 60. You can change the order because it's multiplication. So that gives 45 over 60 hours, which is equal to what? Well, 5 in 45 is 9, 5 in 60 is 12, 3 in 9 is 3, 3 in 12 is 4. So we have 3 over 4 hours, and 3 over 4, well, I'll write this, 3 over 4 hours. So 45 minutes, 3 over 4 hours. 3 over 4 as a decimal is 0.75. So it's 0.75 hours. So what I've just done is I've just converted my time to hours. So T is, I'll write it here. T is 0.75 hours. So what I'm trying to stress here is that we need to determine a certain distance traveled. So you need to know a speed, which we don't know. I need to know the time. We're given the time of 45 minutes, which I've converted to 0.75 hours. So we now know the time. What is the speed? Well, let's go back to the question. It says that assume the car is moving at the same average speed. So you're trying to find the distance in kilometers that the car will cover if it's moving at the same average speed, if it takes 45 minutes. And how do you determine the speed? Well, remember that it told us that the car covered 30 kilometers in 30 minutes. So we need to find this speed, or the average speed in this case, and we apply that same average speed to this second scenario. So for the first case, what's the average speed? Well, the average speed is the distance traveled divided by the time, which is, well, the distance, which is 30 kilometers, divided by 30 minutes, which you automatically know is 0.5 hours. So that means in this case, the speed is 60 kilometers per hour. So in the second scenario, they're pretty much saying how many kilometers does the car move if it travels at this same average speed for 45 minutes. So what we now know is this speed. This speed we now know is 60 kilometers per hour. So the distance is speed times time, which is the speed times the time. So what's 60 times 0.75? Well, 60 times 0.75, which you can work out. So try working that out, and you should get 45. And then we have our units, kilometers per hour and hours. So what is the unit of distance? You can see here, kilometers. So you know that it's 45 kilometers. And the other approaches what I explained earlier is that you just take the unit. So we have kilometers per hour times hours. So hours cancels hours and you're left with kilometers. So what you do is you deal with the numbers first. 60 times 0.75 is 45. And then you deal with the units. So kilometers per hour times hours is just kilometers because hours cancel out. So we have distance is 45 kilometers. And that's the answer. So how many kilometers will the car cover in 45 minutes? It will cover 45 kilometers. There's an easier way to solve this question. So just take note of the following. We're told that a car covers 30 kilometers in 30 minutes. So you say, well, 30 kilometers in 30 minutes. And then you're now asked to find the distance traveled in 45 minutes. So you want to know what the kilometers is when it's 45 minutes. So this is how you do it. Well, you say, and remember we're assuming that the car moves at the same average speed. So in the first scenario, from the first scenario, you can work out that if you divide both sides by 30, you'll find that it means that the car covers 1 kilometer in 1 minute. Dividing both sides by 30. So if I write it as an equation, so I'll say 30 kilometers is 30 minutes. So I'm going to divide both sides by 30 so I can have what 1 kilometer is in minutes. Or, well, let's do it this way. 30 here, 1, 30 here, 1, 30 here, 1, 30 here, 1. So we know that the car moves 1 kilometer in 1 minute. So it moves, well, in 1 minute, it covers 1 kilometer. So what about in 45 minutes? How many kilometers does it cover? Well, if you multiply 1 by 45, you get 45. So 1 minute times 45 is 45 minutes. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 45. Whatever you do to the left-hand side of an equation, you have to do to the right-hand side. So 45 times 1 is 45, and the unit is minutes now. So I'm just going to put S to show you that it's plural, minutes. So it covers, so in 45 minutes, it will cover 45 times 1 kilometers. So the simple answer is 45 kilometers. And I was able to do this without all that work, just using this simple approach.